So when you asked me if you could say a few things about me, I'm thinking I think I need to take out of my resume or my bio that it says I've been here for 30 years because I feel 30. So that just sounds old to me. So I think I might take that out, but I appreciate it. You wouldn't?
I would.
You would. Say that again?
Make you a native.
That's right. Exactly. I am a native. I was born and raised I'm Paula Davis, state representative for District 69. District 69, we are currently in. This is my district. I live actually one street over. My neighbor is Mr. Thomas Brown. I think I'm a pretty lucky girl. Y'all may disagree. But I was introduced, I was first elected state representative in 2015 and again in 2019, and have thoroughly enjoyed my time in the House of Representatives. Kind of a weird journey for me. I never really thought that I would be what we call on this side of the rail, being an elected official. I worked in government affairs and for the State Department of Insurance for over 20 years, and which is where I first met Robert Travis Scott, who is now with PAR. He was a reporter for I think the Times-Picayune at the time. So he covered the Department of Insurance then. I ran for office in 2015. I was working as an advocate for the film industry, and someone came up to me and said, "Hey, you should think about running." I said, "You have lost your mind. I'm a mom. I don't want to do that." He said, "I think you really need to think about doing this. I think you'd be perfect for this role." And like 11 days later, I decided to run, and here I am. So it's been 5 years. We have a very interesting session coming up. We're all, I think, have COVID fatigue. We're anxious to get back to the Capitol and get back to work. Last year, we had 3 sessions. We had our regular session and 2 special sessions. Very interesting because we had a whole group of freshmen come in. I don't know how many there were, probably about 42-ish, I think, in the House, and a handful of senators that came in. So they haven't been fully acclimated to what actually goes on at the Capitol during a regular legislative session, when you have lobbyists and advocacy groups at the Capitol vying for your attention while you're trying to pass legislation. So it's going to be a very interesting session for those freshman legislators that came in. They really have no idea what they're in for. And I think we're going to be pretty much back to normal at the Capitol, business as usual. Luckily, they offered vaccinations to the staff and to us. I am fully vaccinated, so I'm ready to get back to work. But this session is a fiscal only session. Every odd number year, it's fiscal only bills. So we can tackle the budget, we can tackle taxes, credits, expenditures, those types of things. A couple years ago, the legislature said, you know what, we need to be able to have some other business done in those fiscal only sessions. So every legislator has 5 general in nature bills that we can introduce. So most members do that. They introduce 5 bills. So as of today, we have 656 House bills introduced and 235 Senate bills introduced. And this is a light year. You could ask me anything about those bills. I am still going through them, so I probably can't answer everything that you can ask. But I'm going through that now. And in fact, this afternoon, y'all were told, I'm the chairwoman of the House Commerce Committee. So I'm meeting with my staff this afternoon. We haven't gone into session yet, so bills have not been referred to my committee, but we have an idea of what's going to be referred to my committee. So I'm going through those bills with my staff this afternoon to try to get a better understanding of what I have. I think I'm going to have about 30 bills in my committee this year, which is a pretty good load for a fiscal only session. I think last year I had about 60 in the general session, but again, COVID, with COVID, we pared down what we heard and kept it to what we thought were only essential things. So it should be an interesting year in the Commerce Committee. As you all know, we're getting a lot of money from the American Rescue Plan. I think it's $3.2 billion for the state government. We're getting $1.7 billion for local governments. Higher education is getting $599 million, and K through 12 is getting $3.4 billion. So we have a lot of work cut out for us. I think in all, with the 3 different funding sources that have come in since COVID, I think that we have received will receive about $13 billion in federal funds. The Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, is still promulgating those rules for the American Rescue Plan. So even though we have the ability to appropriate that money, we have to wait and see what those rules and regs are going to say and how we can spend that money. So we're currently waiting on her. I think she had 60 days at the time of the enactment of the law to go ahead and promulgate those rules and regs. So I think we are waiting about 50 more days unless she comes through in the next couple of weeks. If that doesn't happen, I do anticipate that we're not going to get much done in the way of allocating federal funds. So we're going to have to come back into a special session, probably in June or early July, something like that. That's what I anticipate. Right now, actually, as I'm speaking, the House Appropriations Committee and the Senate Finance Committee are meeting, and they're going over the executive budget. The executive budget is the governor's budget. That's happening in the House Appropriations Committee this morning. And in the Senate, I think they were going over LSU's budget this morning in the Senate Finance Committee. So they do this before they get to session so that they don't spend all that time in session when we're very limited. This fiscal only session occurs from April 12th to June 10th this year. So we're very limited in the amount of time we have. So they go ahead and get the agencies in and the universities in, and they go through their budgets and they try to hash through all of that before they come back when we convene. And it just quickens the process, makes the process go quicker. So they are currently doing that now. I know that in the executive budget, the governor has asked for pay raises for teachers, asked for pay raises for support workers, higher ed, correctional officers, and other state workers. I know that that's going to be a hotly debated topic. Actually, this next fiscal year's budget is currently balanced, but we had to use some federal funds to balance that budget. So we're not anticipating a deficit or a surplus. However, in the next couple of years, what I was told, I had dinner with another chairman last night who happens to be on the Appropriations Committee, and they're forecasting about a $900 million hole in I think 2 fiscal cycles. So we're going to have to figure out how to come up with that money. So again, we're facing another fiscal cliff sort of situation. And in 2025, the 0.45 of the 5 cents, the 4.5 sales tax rolls off. So that's going to create another deficit. So that's something that we're going to have to look into over the next few years. And in my mind, not wait until we get to that fiscal cliff again of 2025. We need to go ahead and come up with solutions on how to backfill that budget. So I think that's something that we're starting discussions with, at least with me and with leadership, starting to have now, so that we're not waiting until the last minute. Let's see, American Rescue Plan. One of the issues, and you've seen that Biden and Pete Buttigieg, who's the Secretary of Transportation, is coming down with, we think, a pretty hefty transportation bill, $2.2 trillion, I believe. Not sure how that's going to be sent to the states. That's in its first stages. So that'll be very interesting. We know that we have a lot of needs here in Louisiana with an infrastructure backlog. I think we still have, and Robert, you may know better than me, a $13 billion backlog in infrastructure projects. That's not just roads and bridges. It's not just ports and airports, but it's also the universities. They have, buildings that are falling down, and there's a lot of need in our state. In addition, we have infrastructure needs, not just roads and bridges and ports, et cetera, but also with broadband. And that issue is going to be resolved, or not be resolved, but we're getting help from the feds. And one of the things in the American Rescue Plan, and also I think the transportation bill that's coming, is the requirement that funds are going to have to go to broadband issues in that initiative. We created an Office of Broadband within the governor's office last year. It's under Jay Darden's office, the Division of Administration, and that is now up and running. And so they're looking at ways to bring broadband to those areas, or at least get it to that last mile. So we have, I think it's well over 100,000 people in the state of Louisiana without access to the internet. And it's very frustrating. I call my friends in North Louisiana a lot, even cell phone towers. And it's so frustrating when I can't get a cell service, when he can't get a cell service up there. And what is going on over in Winfield? Why don't you have connectivity? So we are working on that. That is something that is encouraging. Representative Darrell Desatel out of Avoyles Parish, out of Marksville, has been a champion for broadband and broadband access and connectivity. So you'll see his name a lot this session in working with that Office of Connectivity under the governor's office to figure out how to bring connectivity around the state. Some kind of miscellaneous bills that we have. Well, you know what? Since I did mention this is a fiscal only session, we do have many, many bills that have been filed regarding tax reform. Some of those bills have really hefty fiscal notes. It'll be very interesting to see how those bills play out in the House Ways and Means Committee. One bill that you'll hear a lot of is sales tax streamlining, and it's the centralized collection of state and local sales taxes. The Speaker of the House put together a committee that worked all year last year, a task force that worked all year, and we think that they've come up with a compromise between the state and locals on how to centralize sales tax collections. Not surprising, we are one of 3 states in the entire country that don't have a centralized place where we collect sales taxes. So currently, if you were a business doing business in several parishes, you may have to go to the sheriff in one parish, the school board in another parish. It makes doing business in Louisiana a little more difficult. So we hope to streamline that process. We will have some folks that are against it. We will have some municipalities, some sheriffs, but all in all, I think that it won't be smooth sailing, but you do have, I think, the Association of Sheriffs and the school boards that for the most part have started to come on board. And those discussions are ongoing. So I think you'll hear a lot about that bill in particular over the next 2 months. Some fun bills, some miscellaneous bills I'm just going to kind of touch on. We all heard about the gas tax. That bill was dead, and now it's been revived. Representative Jack McFarland had the bill initially. He did not file the bill, and now Representative Barbara Freiberg has filed the bill or is filing the bill. I've talked to Representative Freiberg about it. It's a discussion that we think needs to be had. Whether or not it gets out of the committee, that's a whole nother story, but it is absolutely a discussion we need to have because we have to start making infrastructure a priority in our state if we want businesses to grow here and businesses to come here. Another bill that is going to be very interesting is HB 40 by Representative Wright, and that continues to transform the Department of Transportation. So right now we have the Transportation Trust Fund. The monies in that trust fund go to pay the pensions and salaries of employees. So he's starting to phase out that part of the Department of Transportation. I'm assuming that the Department of Transportation is going to fight that issue and fight that effort. So it'll be a very interesting conversation in the House Ways and Means Committee, or maybe House Transportation Committee. But that's Representative Mark Wright out of Tangipahoa Parish. We're going to see Representative Mandy Landry has a bill to decriminalize prostitution. So I'm sure that'll make some headlines. We have bills regarding gun control and constitutional carry. We have a bill by Representative Danny McCormick, who is out of Caddo Parish, and he wants complete freedom for concealed carry. We have Representative Fontenot, who has a similar bill, except you would have to take a 1-hour online course. Now to carry concealed, you have to take, I think it's a 4-hour course and a couple other things. His pares it down, but you still have to take a 1-hour course in order to carry concealed. Another issue y'all are going to hear about is moving a riverboat from Shreveport to Slidell. It's a bill to allow the voters of St. Tammany Parish to vote on whether or not they want to move that boat. That's going to be a contentious bill. You're going to have some riverboats and gaming companies here in Louisiana fighting that. Most of those folks do have gaming operations in Mississippi. So that's going to be the fight there. For me, I am a supporter of allowing the people of St. Tammany Parish to vote whether or not they want it in their parish or not. Let the people vote. But that's going to be a fight. So I'm going to open it up. Any questions you guys have? Yes.
Any hope to lower automobile rates?
So as y'all know, we passed a tort reform bill last year. That's going to take a little bit of time, and the point of that was it was going to lower auto insurance rates. That's going to take some time, absolutely, for that system to work. I'm not sure. I haven't seen any specific bills targeting that this year, but I know that there are some tort reform issues that I think need to be reformed more. I don't think we're going to see that this year. But as far as lowering car insurance rates, that's going to be up to a company by company basis, and that's with the Commissioner of Insurance. But as far as in the legislative session, I haven't seen anything yet. Yes.
How do you feel about the closed primary? What do you think its chances are of passing?
Sure. So Senator Sharon Hewitt, I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was closed primaries and how do I feel about closed primaries and that process. So there was a debate, I think a week ago in a committee, and they chose to send the report to the full legislature stating that they would like closed primaries in congressional races only. That doesn't mean that that's going to pass or fail, or that someone else isn't going to have a bill to address a closed primary system for congressional, statewide, and local elected officials. I'm open-minded. I'm more than willing to listen to both sides, but I do like what Representative Graves said, and I don't know if y'all saw it. It was, he said it, in his mind, it's one of the most un-American things that can happen because you're not allowing people to vote for who they want to vote for. You're forcing them to vote for a party and an ideology, not the person. So I think I'm very open-minded and I'm going to listen, but I do like that sentiment. Whether or not it passes, I'm hearing both sides. So I think it's going to be a very tight vote. And that's going to start over in the Senate. Yes.
The future of transportation appears to be electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Who currently get a free ride.
Correct.
Is there any move to institute a usage fee?
Yes. Yes, and I'm not sure if I haven't looked at Representative Freiberg's bill, but I believe that she does address electric vehicles in that. But it is definitely something that we need to look at because you're right. They do not pay a gas tax, and currently in Louisiana, gas tax is the only thing that funds our infrastructure needs. So there has to be some type of usage fee so that it captures those. And the more we go, the more electric vehicles that are going to be on the roads. So that is going to be addressed in the next couple of years if it's not already in Representative Freiberg's bill. Yes.
With regard to the plan for spending the American Rescue Plan funds,
Mhm.
have priorities on non-recurring expenses
Correct.
been,
Yes.
Been identified? And is there kind of a strategic group that's going to determine, we pay off some federal money, some federal grant, that federal money?
Well, and I know there are some parameters around that money. I think that it should be used for non-recurring because it is one-time money. But also, I think we should look at using some of that money for our infrastructure needs. That's always a fight because we need a bridge in Baton Rouge, of course. We need a bridge in Lake Charles. I talked to Congressman Graves last week, and he would love to see some of that money directed toward those efforts. However, then you fight, the groups, the legislators in other areas who say, well, I have these needs as well. So I think that some of it should go to that. Some of it should go to repaying what we lost in the unemployment trust fund. And I think you'll see that effort. I don't think that any monies can go to pensions, but I think that we should absolutely, if we can, put some monies back into the rainy day fund. So those discussions are ongoing, and that's something that Representative Zarang and Senator Bodie White from here, who's head of the Senate Finance Committee, Representative Zarang from HOMA is head of the Appropriations Committee, and they're having those discussions as we speak. Yes.
Speaking of Bodie White, he's made a little noise about breaking up REC.
I heard.
Do you think that has any traction?
We just talked about it this morning, and actually the head of the zoo, I don't know, right over here, we actually talked about it. I haven't seen the proposal. I saw the headline in the paper this morning, so I don't know what it's about, but it's going to get a hearing. Senator White will definitely have a hearing. That's going to probably go to the Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee, or the Senate Municipal Committee rather. Whether it gets any traction, in my mind, I'm thinking no. It's going to have a tough time, but it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts. But I have not read the article in the paper this morning yet, and I haven't talked to Senator White. He's in Senate Finance, but I am anxious to hear his thoughts on that.
You're hearing about raising the salary for teachers.
Mhm.
There's a lot of retired teachers too,
Yeah. And the retired teachers, that's not in the executive budget, but I know that current teachers who still are employed, that is in the budget, a $400 raise, and then raises for school support workers and others.
The Louisiana Nursing Home Association has a very strong lobby.
Oh.
And
Yep.
continually gets more and more disproportionate funding than home and community-based services. Do you have a position on that?
As a daughter of a mother who was at home, I absolutely agree that home-based health should get more funding. Absolutely. Unfortunately, we've had to now transfer her into a memory care unit, but seeing what we have gone through with my mother and that personal experience really does help to further shape views. So I definitely think that keeping your family at home is the best thing, or keeping your loved one at home is absolutely the best thing. Now, for my mother, it turned out to be not the best thing for her at this time in her situation, but absolutely, we should absolutely direct more money toward home health. Yeah, keeping your loved ones at home and keeping that family intact, I think, is very important. And I think that it probably helps with those who have dementia or Alzheimer's to see those loved ones around them every day and be in a familiar space. I think it's very important. Mr. Bill.
Paula, can you comment on tomorrow's meeting regarding LSU, what you expect
Sure.
for you to accomplish?
Sure. Very good question. We've had the Senate Select Committee on Women and Children, which I am not a member of, but I have gone to participate to listen. And so I have had the opportunity to hear it from LSU on that situation. And it's been a very disheartening situation. And I think everyone in this room can agree that it has been a very disheartening situation, and we shouldn't have to go through this. I think we've learned a lot in the last 2 meetings. My hope is that tomorrow we start to learn what we want to learn from these folks that are going to come and testify. And I don't know who's going to be there to testify. I know some people are sending in written statements, so I'm not sure who we're going to actually hear from. I think it's important to hear from people so that you don't repeat the past, but I think it is also time that we move forward and think about what we're going to do going forward and how we're going to remedy the situation and so that it doesn't happen on any college campus again. And I have a bill along with Senator Mizell that closes those loopholes that that some of these things went through with Title IX. So hopefully we'll get that passed this session. The bill that was enacted 5 years ago by Senator Morrell and Helena Moreno, Representative Moreno, only dealt with student. And so our bill will deal with administrators as well. It should be a very interesting committee meeting tomorrow morning. I'm going to be there for part of the morning. I have a previously scheduled engagement at noon, but I don't know who we're going to hear from. I don't have that answer for you. State Senator Regina Barrow, who's from here, chairs that committee. So she's aware, I'm assuming, of who she has coming before her. I think but I know some members have declined to participate, and some have said that they're going to send in written statements. I don't think we're going to see Coach Ozer on there. But I do think that it is important for us to have these discussions. I don't like that we're having these discussions. I don't think that we shouldn't be in this situation to begin with. And I think there was a huge failure on the administration's part. However, we have to start looking forward and how do we enact measures to prevent what's happened and how do we teach young men and young women how to behave and administrators and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So, and I think that LSU is starting to address that. You know, we had the Hush Blackwell report that came out, which was a really, really tough read. However, I think it was able to shine the light on a lot of holes in the system. And I think that, you know, they're starting to move forward with some of those 18 recommendations. Mr. Scott?
Yes, well, after covering your agency as a reporter, I just want to thank you for continuing to talk to me.
You were very kind back then.
Chair of the Commerce Committee, I wonder if you could tell us what you see as some of the biggest challenges or opportunities or legislation that you would expect this committee to see while you're there, whether related to dealing with the pandemic or any other really long-term issues, anything you want to see that committee accomplish?
Sure. Well, and my committee is, I Commerce Committee covers such a wide variety of topics. I have banking, the river pilots, which is going to be an issue. The river pilots and the industry, that's coming forward. You're going to hear some chatter about that in the paper in the next coming weeks. There is a bill out there I haven't read the bill yet. Again, I'm meeting with staff this afternoon, but from what I understand, it's a transparency bill. You're going to see broadband. I get broadband issues in my committee. So those issues will come to my committee and will be before my committee with Representative Desatel and others. Banking issues. We had some legislation last year regarding banking and how banks can operate because of the pandemic and virtual meetings, things like that. We'll see some of that. I also regulate or I'm oversee utilities such as Entergy, Cleco, Atmos Energy, those types of things. So we'll have some issues from the last storms, not just the ice storm, but also the hurricanes. So those are some of the few issues that I see coming before my committee. It'll be busy. About 30 bills so far, but it'll be a busy one. Yes.
Mike teased us about your daughter.
Oh, how did I forget? It's the best thing ever. Yes. So our daughter, Hayden, again, I'm 35. My daughter's going to be 21 on Friday. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be with her because she is in her first wedding. Her big sis in her sorority is getting married to actually a boy from Baton Rouge, my daughter's best friend's brother. Crazy small world. But she's turning 21 on Friday, and in December, she told us yesterday, she sent us a snapshot, she did her fall schedule, and she's going to be a graduate of Auburn University. Yes. Yes. And we were okay with her going to Auburn because it gives us the opportunity to root against Alabama twice. So we were okay with that. But I do hang my LSU flag and my Auburn flag at my house. My neighbors probably don't enjoy it, but my money goes to Auburn, so we support Auburn. But we're very proud of her. Her plan is to go to UAB Occupational Therapy School, where she'll get her doctorate in occupational therapy. And she currently works I'm going to brag for a minute. She's just this amazing kid. She's our only child, can you tell? And she currently works at a place called the Exceptional Foundation of East Alabama, and they work with adults with developmental disabilities. And she does that full time and goes to school full time. So she's found her passion, and we are so proud. So War Eagle.